Hey guys, it's Wyndham, back for Video Wednesdays, and yes, it's been 2 seconds since I made my last video, so yes, I'm still restricted on social media, which is extra fun. Anyway, so I wanted to come on here and talk about something fun, which we all really like, okay? And my cat is back here eating my lights, and I have to kick him out. This is our cat. He's a little garbage man. Come here, garbage man. Oh, he's not happy about this. He is. He's looking with wonder like. This is our cat. We call him Cat. His name's actually Garbage, but we also call him Cat. But anyway, I wanted to talk about something kind of serious today. Okay, chill. Hey, shh, 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 shh. I'll let you down, but hang out. Good boy. He's not much of a snuggler. Anyway, so I want to talk to you guys today about something kind of serious, something that I'm still chewing on, okay? So I'm still chewing on this concept, figuring out where I stand, what my beliefs are with this, but I think it's really important that it is talked about, especially when it comes to how the world is changing, and a lot of things are coming out about different people that were given power in the religious realm. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about trauma involving evangelicalism. Okay, so first of all, Beth Moore, okay, she's this huge author, speaker, person in evangelical circles. My mom used to do Beth Moore studies. I did a Beth Moore study in college, and she is a very talented woman. Well, she recently has been very open about the systemic abuse in evangelicalism, okay? And I'm not just talking about systemic racism, okay? I'm talking about systemic oppression of peoples, just based upon having a position of power over others in the realm of spiritual abuse, okay? So she's come out, she's made all these statements, and the Southern Baptist Convention, or the SBC, has basically been very anti-Beth Moore. They've called her a heretic, they've called her Judas, they've called her just all these unflattering things. They've asked her husband to gain control over his wife. Just all of this stuff that is just nasty and horrible, and Beth doesn't deserve it because she's just living her life, speaking truth, and she is trying to be like her interpretation of Jesus, okay? She really isn't doing anything wrong. And she spoke the other day, she made this quote. Now, I don't necessarily believe in everything that Beth says, okay? I personally, I don't talk about my personal beliefs a lot, but I'm a person of faith, but I also have a lot of questions. I also have a lot of things that I do and don't necessarily believe in, that don't necessarily align with a lot of other people's theology. And that's just because of my own study and my own background and my own experience, okay? So anyway, Beth Moore made this really awesome tweet the other day about we're calling people to be unified, but we also need to talk about brokenness. Okay? I think that she's talking more in the political spectrum, but I really kind of want to talk about how the evangelical movement and evangelical religion kind of almost had its grip of trauma on me. Now, I was never abused by anybody in leadership, luckily. I really don't think that I was necessarily spiritually abused or physically abused in any way by anybody in a position of power. But even just these smaller things that they try to teach you, being a young person brought up in the evangelical Southern Baptist Church, a lot of their belief systems are just kind of damaging, kind of scary, and you can kind of see where there's this big line in the sand that they have, and that probably makes them a little harder to speak to and a little bit harder for you guys to understand. So I'm kind of wanting to talk about this and break it down a little bit. because I think that it deserves to be talked about. I think that it deserves to be addressed. It's going to be interesting. Okay, so I'm just going to talk about it a little bit. So here's an example of one of the ways that I think that I've been traumatized by the evangelical movement. Okay, so anytime that somebody talks about a different belief of opinion over religion or faith, okay, and the rational part of my brain says any human being is allowed to believe their belief system. It's personal, it's subjective, it comes from a place of being raw and being open. A very rational part of my brain and a rational part of my person says, yes, you are allowed to question your beliefs. You are allowed to question the existence of a higher power. You are allowed to dip your foot into Judaism. You're allowed to dip your foot into Buddhism. You're allowed to dip your foot into Wicca. You're allowed to discover what you think makes sense of the world. Because if you force it on someone, they're not going to listen, okay? Rational part of my brain knows that. But the part of my brain that has been indoctrinated with evangelical culture says that, oh no, if anybody close to me is questioning any of their beliefs, if anybody close to me is questioning anything that they believe in, they're going to go to hell. Oh no, there's no way that they're going to build a relationship back with God after this. Even though the person may never want to build a relationship back with God. The person might not even believe in the concept of hell. Why have they instilled in us a sense of being so offended at the ability to rationalize and reason, this ability in our own brains to discover what makes us tick in our belief system? And they've made us be offended by our freedom. They've made us be offended by the freedom that we all have to be able to explore what makes us tick in our own conscience and in our own heart. Like, I don't understand how they've taught us that self-exploration bad. I don't get that. But that's what I was taught. I was taught that if you're Mormon, you don't go to heaven. I was taught that if you're Catholic, you don't go to heaven. I was taught that any of those belief systems, you don't go to heaven and you're not rewarded. Because if you're Catholic, you can't go to heaven because you didn't pray to Jesus for your salvation. You pray to someone else. You pray to the Virgin Mary. You confess to a priest. All of those things, I was taught that doesn't count. It's not accepting Jesus as your savior. And I was taught that it is not the same. Despite the fact that if you actually look in a lot of scriptures, it's all based on your heart position and your fruit. But somehow my experiences with Southern Baptist culture indoctrinated into me that if you have a friend that is Catholic, or you have a friend that is Muslim, or if you have a friend that is Hindu, or if you have a friend that is Mormon, their belief system is so out there and it is so wrong that instead of building an actual relationship with these people, I was taught and I was guilt-ridden that if I did not minister and witness to them, that it was my fault if they go to hell. And to this day, I still get offended when people question belief systems, and I shouldn't. I still struggle with being offended by that. I still struggle with building relationships with people that are different than me, even though it shouldn't be a problem. And the thing is relationship is what needs to matter with people anyway. If you actually want to be like any type of deity, a lot of it was built through relationships and treated people kindly. You know, it was all about the fruit that you live out in your life. No matter what belief system you are, it's about what type of person you are on the inside, no matter what you believe. It's how you treat people. It's on the inside. And it's not about whether or not you convince people to follow your religion because you might feel guilty about them going to hell. No, that's so bad. I get offended by things like science. I get offended by any time that my husband just wants to show me a scientific study. Like let's say that there's a study that just says that, you know, when men get older, they get a better twitch reflex, which is why a lot of the times pro gamers, as far as like people that are professional league players or any of that type of stuff, they're usually better when they're men, because they have this natural twitch reflex that has evolved, right? I would get offended by scientific fact, just about things that happened because of evolution. I'd get offended because I was kept down for so long in evangelical circles because of my gender, okay? So here's the thing, is I was taught from a very young age that a woman's main goal, because a woman cannot be a pastor, or a woman cannot be a speaker, a woman cannot teach men, and a woman also has to submit. I was taught all of these things, that my highest calling was to be a wife and a mom. Okay? That's what I was taught. My highest calling was to be a wife and a mom. And every single Sunday school class that I was in, after we divided genders in about middle school, when we started actually having Sunday school classes, it was all about resisting sexual temptation, okay? And it was also all about how to get a husband, basically. It was just about how do you want to be this type of wife, navigating dating, talking about boys. It was never about actually becoming a better person. It was always pushing me towards a life that I did, at the time, I wasn't even sure if I wanted. And at the same time now, I'm a wife, but I don't feel like my highest purpose is being a wife. And right now I have no plans on being a mom anytime soon. That belief system is so skewed and it's so out there. And I'm gonna talk about it in this way. Being a mom and being a parent is beautiful, and it's an honor, and it is a very high calling to be a good parent. But at the same time, it is not a woman's highest calling. You cannot look at the high rates of infertility in women and then also look at women and tell them your highest calling, your identity is wrapped up in your ability to procreate. You're basically telling women that they will never fulfill their purpose. And I don't think that that's okay. I don't think that that's right. And I was taught that, and I was put down for so long as a woman. I remember in college I went to this amazing class. It was called Gender, let me see, what was it? Women in Biblical Tradition. So I took this class in college. It was called Women in Biblical Tradition, okay? And it was a bunch of professionals that found through study and translation and understanding of historical context and language translations, all of these verses that the evangelical movement had been using to put me down as my gender actually were not how we're supposed to be taking them at all. And I took this class and I felt so empowered by it. And yet now, because I've been put down by other people so much, even during my premarital counseling that we had to take, I was told that I had to submit to him. And I just don't think that that is okay. I think that the concept of biblical submission has been used for way too long to let abuse in the church continue. I think that submission has been used to keep women from fulfilling their calling, as far as if they wanted to pursue college degrees. Let's say they wanted to be pastors. Let's say they wanted to be missionaries. Let's say they wanted to be authors and they wanted to do things other than be a wife and a mother. Maybe they wanted to be a lawyer or a doctor. I think that this concept has been used for so long to keep women down and to keep them as less than, and to make them not sure of their own thoughts and opinions because they had to listen to men. And so because I've been put down for so long and I was constantly told, you have to serve your husband, you have to submit to your husband. Oh, you shouldn't be dating someone unless he can spiritually lead you. Oh, you shouldn't be with someone unless he can lead you. The thing is every couple is different. Every dynamic is so different that that's not just a blanket instruction that can work for people. It doesn't work. You're going to tell people that, oh, the man has, the man is the head and the woman has to submit. And then let's say that the woman has a higher paying job and the man should probably stay home with the kids because the woman's a doctor and has maybe a more hectic schedule and brings in more income. And the church is going to tell you that that's inappropriate, despite the fact of how ahead it could make your children in life, about how ahead it could make your family in life, and how comfortable it could make sure that your children are for success. It could put them on the line to success. And yet the church will say, because you're making more and the husband's doing a woman's job, that it's not okay. I don't agree with that. But I was taught that for so long that now that I'm free of that concept, but people keep still spitting it at me and yelling it at me, that I get offended just being told things about science, about the differences between men and women. I get offended by science, even though I shouldn't be, even though it's stupid to be offended by science, even though it's stupid to be offended by theories, and it's stupid to let that be a noose around my neck. But it is because I was held down for so long that my emotional state, my emotional gut reaction to those things is fight it. And it's hard for me to not to, okay? So that's another way that the evangelical movement has traumatized, okay? Let's talk about the fact that the purity movement has made me feel like I can't wear a sports bra in my own home. Okay? Purity culture and modesty culture was so ingrained in my home and so ingrained with the people that I know that it was hard for me to wear a bathing suit at a pool party. It was hard for me to wear a bathing suit at the beach. It's hard for me to wear a sports bra in my own home as an adult married woman. Even if it's really hot out, it's hard for me to go anywhere where any type of undergarment might be shown. It's made me self-conscious about certain pants that might fit too tight, if my shorts are too short, if this. And it makes me second guess everything that I wear because it might lead a boy's eyes into temptation, which is stupid because you can wear sweatpants and someone's eyes can be in temptation. But anyway, I think a lot of these broken systems, I think a lot of these abuses of power and just these ways of manipulating people into all believing and acting the same way, I think that they're all going to come to light. I think that they're going to be more out. I think that you guys need to be on the lookout for that. I think it's going to be happening. And so, yeah, hopefully this gave you guys something to think about. Hopefully it lets you know where I come from a little bit from where I are, gives you a little bit of information about my background. And yeah, I think the biggest thing that I can ask for is to really sit and think and chew on it, whether or not the groups that you are associated with, if it could ever be given the blame for other people's trauma, for other people's relationship problems, for other people's being uncomfortable with self. I would say these systems can also be responsible for possible issues with gender and possible issues with marriage, I'd say. But anyway, thanks for tuning in, guys. Thanks for watching this, and hopefully this reaches somebody that needed to hear it. So I'll talk to you next time.